Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, we're going to do another episode of Bites and Nibbles of Breck today. Today we're going to make something called Wendy's chili. Now the Wendy's in this case is a fast food restaurant you probably all heard of if you live in the United States. There's about 6,500 of them nationwide, and apparently they make a chili that a lot of people really like, and somebody has come up with a knockoff version of this recipe that you can make at home. Now I've never had Wendy's chili, so I don't know if it's any good or if it's maybe just really horrible. But I am trying to kind of figure out how to make my own chili and turn it into something of my own. And one of the ways you do that is start off with a bunch of different chilies made by different people using different approaches, and then figure out what works and try and come up with something that works for you. And there's some ingredients in this chili that seem a little odd for chili, but I want to try it. It sounds good, and we're going to give it a shot. Now, I'm going to modify this recipe a little bit because initially it's designed to be done in a slow cooker or in a big pot, but I think I know enough about my Instant Pot that I'm going to try and modify the recipe and do it in there. So let's get going. Let's look at the ingredients. So these are the ingredients for our chili. First off, we're going to have some tomato puree, some tomato juice, some pinto beans and kidney beans, salt and pepper, the following spices: cumin, garlic seasoning, chili powder, oregano, and cayenne pepper, some celery and green bell pepper, a little onion, and some ground beef. Now, like I said, I'm going to do this in the Instant Pot, and we're going to see how this works. One of the things also, the ingredients actually called for canned beans. I actually decided to go with dried beans, and I'm going to prepare them in the Instant Pot. Since that's kind of the first thing we're going to do, we're going to prepare them first. So I've actually looked at my handy dandy little Instant Pot cooking timetable chart for different kinds of beans and stuff like that, and it's recommending 20 to 25 minutes for kidney beans and 25 to 30 minutes for pinto beans. Now I think I'm going to do it 25 minutes for both of them at the same, and I'm going to cook them at the same time because they're going to go back into the chili, and the pinto beans will get a little bit more cook time when they're in the chili. So I'm going to put both the kidney and the pinto beans in the Instant Pot. We're going to cover it with water, and we are going to pressure cook it for 25 minutes. Alright, so I put some water in the inner pot. I put my beans inside. We're going to put the cover on and lock it down, and we are going to pressure cook, which is right there, for 25 minutes. And then we'll turn off the keep warm button. I'll see you in 25 minutes. Now while the beans are cooking, I'm going to chop up my celery, my onions, and get all the veggies ready to go. Alright, we got about 2 more minutes to go on the beans, and in that time what I've done is I have prepared my onions, bell peppers, and celery. I've prepared my tomato puree and tomato juice, and I've prepared my spices. This is all going to go together really quickly here once we get the meat done. So wanted to have everything ready to go ahead of time, and we're good to go now. So when the timer goes off on the Instant Pot, we're going to move on to the next part and continue with this recipe. Alright, we've completed our time. Let's quick release. And there we go, pin drops. It's safe to open the lid. Once again, watch out for the condensation because there will be a lot of that. And there's our beans. Now what I'm going to do for now is I'm going to put these aside. We're going to keep them moist, but we're going to put them aside because the next thing we got to do is prepare our beef. Alright, so I've got the beans transferred into just a little Tupperware kind of thing here. We're going to let them sit for a while. I've given a little bit of a rinse out of the inner pot for the Instant Pot because next thing we're going to do is we're going to saute the meat. So I'm going to put the Instant Pot into saute mode, and we're going to throw our meat in there and we're going to brown it. Okay, I think our ground beef is about ready to go here. So I'm going to turn off the heat. And we're going to drain the fat out of this, and we're going to put the meat right back into the pot, add the rest of our ingredients, and get this thing all put together for the final phase of the cooking. I'll let you see what that looks like in just a minute. Alright, so we've drained the fat off of the meat, and I got the meat back into the Instant Pot. Now I'm going to add my tomato juice. I'm going to add my veggies. That's my onion, my celery, and my bell peppers. And I am going to add my spices. This is going to give it the real flavor. And let's mix that all up. Get it in there real good. And of course we got one more ingredient needs to go in here. That's the beans. We got to make this stuff magical. Alright. So let's get our beans going here. And now we got everything in there. Now I'm kind of realizing here that when I didn't do already canned beans that were already hydrated and instead used the dry beans, that they actually expanded in size quite a bit beyond what I'd originally planned. So I probably have more beans in here than I would need to have. So in order to augment for that, I put a little bit more of the tomato juice that I had left over, and we're going to try cooking this and see how this works out. Like I said, I probably should have put fewer of the beans in there, but that's okay. I think this is still going to turn out pretty good, and we got it all mixed up now, and that actually looks pretty tasty, doesn't it? We'll get a few meals out of that, definitely. So let's get this thing cooking. We're going to cook it for, I think, about 15 or 20 minutes at high pressure, and then I think to prevent this thing from erupting all over the house, because I've had issues with that. If you overfill the Instant Pot and quick release it, it'll sometimes spray stuff all over the place if you have it too full, and I think it's a little too full. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook it for about 15 minutes, I think, and then we're going to slow release the pressure for a while. That should eliminate the spraying of gunk all over the place. It should also help a little bit in terms of allowing all the flavors to kind of merge together. So I'm going to put the lid back on the Instant Pot, and that is over here. Needed a little bit of room while I was working there, so lid on the Instant Pot, close, and we're going to pressure cook for 25 minutes. And then we're going to turn off the keep warm function. So I'll check in with you in about 15 minutes, and we're going to, like I said, slow release probably for 10 minutes or so, at least until I feel like that, we're not likely to get an eruption out of this thing, and we'll go from there. Check in with you in a little bit. All right, so I've naturally released now for about 20 minutes, and we're going to quick release the rest of this. And there isn't a whole lot of pressure left in there, obviously. And there goes our pressure. So we're going to lift the lid now that the pressure's dropped. Once again, paying attention to the condensation, because it will be very, very hot. And that looks pretty good. Let's get in there and stir it a little bit. Oh yeah, all the good stuff in there. I was kind of concerned that this might burn to the bottom, but it isn't really having a problem. So sometimes when you get like a lot of solid material in it, it all kind of settles to the bottom and then it burns. Not this time though. All right, let's get a little of this into a bowl and taste it. All right, so it's taste test time, and I gotta admit, I was a little concerned how this was gonna turn out. It seemed a little odd to me that the base liquid in there was tomato juice. I'm used to, like, tomato paste, tomato sauce, something like that. So it seemed weird that the tomato juice was gonna be the liquid in there, but it looks right, and it actually smells pretty good. So I'm a little scared right now because I know this is going to be really, really hot. So I'm going to take it very carefully. We're going to take just a little taste of it here. Blow it off a little bit here so I don't scorch the roof of my mouth, because that's no fun. You don't want, I like it when my food bites me back, but I don't like it when I get burned. That's not quite as much fun. So that's actually really, really good. It's got good flavor to it. Now, I did cheat a little bit. I noticed, I took a little taste test at one point during the process and noticed that it needed a little bit more salt. It was a little bland tasting. You could maybe cook it the way it is in the recipe and it'll be fine. But like I said, I thought it was a little bland, and so I added some salt to it, and I think that adds to it a lot. Really good though. The tomato juice kind of thickened up a little bit, which kind of gives it a real good chili consistency. So I would say this is actually a very good recipe. I'd recommend trying this one if you're into it. I'll post the recipe in the description below, and you can check it out yourself. Now, I'm going to actually post the recipe as is, and the recipe is that you do it in like a slow cooker or just in a large pot. I did this in a third the time in the Instant Pot. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll post both recipes, and you can decide which way you want to go. But this is actually a good one. Now, one of the things I did learn, and I mentioned it earlier in the video, and that is a pound of dried beans is not the same amount of beans as a pound of beans that are already liquid. So there's a little bit more beans in here, and like I said, I had to offset it a little bit by putting a little bit more tomato juice in there. But I think it came out pretty good. So like I said, the only thing I'd probably do is reduce the amount of tomatoes next time, or the amount of beans next time, and get this more into balance. But it turned out pretty good. So I think that's all that I have for today. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Bon appetit.